All right, welcome to Around the Gridiron. This is episode 4. We've made it 4 episodes, me and Austin here. We're going to kick it off. We're going to pick up where we left off last week on the NFC West and talk about the Arizona Cardinals and the Seattle Seahawks. And then we're going to talk about just everything that's going on. Deebo saying he wants out, and maybe talk a little draft prospects as well.
Yeah, looking forward to it. A lot to talk about today.
So Austin, how you feeling? I know you got your guys, for the NFL draft getting ready. Really good article came out on one of your prospects. You feeling good heading into the draft?
Yeah, just ready for next weekend to get here. I think that's the biggest thing. Is most of the work is completed at this point, and just the anticipation of waiting, I think, is what everyone kind of dreads right now. But feeling pretty good. It's the largest draft class in NFL history, just with how many guys took that extra COVID year. So going to be really interesting to see what happens. I think a lot of guys that normally would get drafted are going to be free agents, and a lot of normal free agent guys might be out of luck, this year as well. So excited to have a normal offseason, though. First time in a couple of years, just because of COVID issues. But I'm looking forward to it. Really deep class, not really top heavy, which is pretty interesting, which is how many guys there are. So kind of curious to see if there's going to be a lot of trades from the first round, teams maybe wanting some value next year or getting some extra mid-round capital. Any expectations for you heading into the draft or kind of overall thoughts?
I don't know anymore, man. I got to do another mock for Bears Wire, but I didn't tweet this out, but honestly, like, to your point, there's so much noise because there's so much depth that it's like I would write something about a guy that I thought would be a 4th round guy, 5th round guy, and then something starts to happen. I don't know, maybe it's just kind of the game. But now people are like, oh, this guy might be a 2nd round guy, a 3rd round guy, early date. And I'm like, how the hell did that happen?
You're working your magic.
Yeah, that's yeah. I should start sending these guys a bill if that's the case. Yeah. But there's a good tight end, Chiga Okonkwo out of Maryland, who's kind of this super athletic guy, raw guy.
He's gonna get a lot of buzz. Like, it's funny. Like, some guys are like the last week or two, I knew who he was, but we're kind of coming out of nowhere, like media wise, where suddenly a lot of people are talking about him.
And I was thinking, when I first wrote the thing about him for the Bears, I was like, maybe this is a guy 7th round, bring him into a camp undrafted type of guy, right? And now I think I saw somebody credible say, hey, this guy might be an early day 2 guy. And I'm like, wow. Yeah. And again, I don't know how much of that is guys like you kind of trying to build some buzz for their clients or what, but yeah.
Well, another thing, and what kind of irks me about all of draft Twitter and kind of all the sites, and it's its whole industry now, but there's so much groupthink, and I almost tweeted something like a day or two ago. I didn't. I was going to say hey, 1st round mocks aren't mock drafts, because you're all just regurgitating the same.
Oh yeah.
40, 50 players. Give me a full 7 round that shows you're actually watching throughout, the top 250 to 300 players. So I think that's what happens a lot is, there'll be guys that just no one's really watched, and then someone in the media watches them first, and then suddenly everyone takes a look who's never seen him, and then, he goes from an unknown to, oh, this guy could be a mid-round. We're lazy and never watched him before. And so that's the thing that kind of annoys me, is just how much just groupthink goes on, and not enough free thinking for draft prospects, or people afraid to take a clear stance on a guy and then end up being wrong, even though every NFL team gets wrong in the draft process too. It's such an inexact science.
Yeah, I think that's to your point, that's one of the things that I really got stretched this year, writing about the Bears. They have no 1st round pick. They have the 2 seconds now after the trade, but they had a 2nd, a 3rd, 2 5th, and a 6th, which is just personally an ugly draft. But you start to think okay, well, who the hell's even going to be there? You know what I mean? Right. And so I really had to start digging, and that's what I'm like. Did, for example, we'll get on the group think. Like I put a guy, Logan Hall, the tackle out of Houston.
Mm-hmm.
I did a mock where I said, hey, maybe the Bears take him at 39. You know, we just lost Akeem Hicks, Eddie Goldman. You know, you need a tackle there, whether it's a 1-tech or a 3-tech. You know, this guy could be the guy. And Bears fans, right, are throwing up on themselves because all the big guys are saying, oh, no, take an offensive lineman, whatever. Fast forward. Now people are saying, oh, Logan Hall might slip into the first round. And then you see, oh, Logan Hall took a visit with the Bears. And then I start seeing some of the big names on Twitter say, oh, yeah, Logan Hall might be a great fit for the Bears.
Hey, someone has to be the martyr, I guess, and be the first one.
Yeah.
The funny thing, too, is like how offended like fans get and just like attack people. It's like, Nate, how many picks are you personally making, you know, in the draft?
Oh, my God, dude.
And they like will go after you or whoever because you made the wrong picks, even though like you're not the one actually doing it. Yeah, that's just something else that blows my mind.
Yeah. Oh man, dude, that was the thing too. So and people are so like, look, I mean, we have thicker skin, I think, but like, so people say, oh, I think this is dumb. Okay, whatever. But like, give me some reasons why. People will just attack your thing, and they're just like, this is the worst freaking draft I've ever seen. I'm like, what's so bad about it? You know what I mean? Like, I had to pick 6 guys.
Some like actual feedback or like, how can you improve?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, sometimes it's just like, okay, tell me who you want to see. This is the group thing, right? Tell me who you want to see on here, and I'll put that guy on there. But then why would you come read my thing if you know I'm writing the same thing that Kuiper and McShay and everybody else is writing? Like, I don't know, man. But yeah, the funny thing too, you talk about group thing. Now everybody's scrambling, right? Because it sounds like Trevon Walker or whatever might be the first overall pick. So you got guys kind of like redoing their mocks where they're like, yeah, you know, I always thought he might go there. Come on.
Did you? Like, you had him at the end of the first, like a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah. It's like, just stick with the guy and ride it out. I think for me, the only part where I start to feel kind of like, damn, is, you know, I'm writing these things telling people, oh, this guy will be there in the 5th round, or this guy will be here in the 4th round. And now, like, again, I don't know how much of it's BS, but people are like, this guy's going to go 2nd round. I'm like, what? Like, who is taking this guy in the 2nd round?
It's pretty wild. Like,
dude, I saw Tariq Woolen, you know, who again, I liked him, but thought for sure this is a 5th round guy, right? Super raw, super. So I'm mocking him around, I don't know, 140, 150 overall. Yeah. I'm seeing mocks now with him going like 50th, 60th, like.
I could see him like sneaking in late 2nd, going like early 3rd again. Someone's got to bet on their coaching staff that they're gonna develop the raw traits that you have there, and which I get it. Like, it's hard to pass that up.
I get it too, but I think that's the hard part, right? Is like I'm really trying. I'm like, oh, this guy will for sure be there 5th round. He's gonna be a steal, and now it's like, oh no, that guy's gonna go 1st overall now. Like, just. But dude, the anger is a big piece, and not just on the mocks, but like on everything. Like, you know, there's a really easy attack people will do. You know, women get it for sure the most of like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. But like, people love to be like, oh, you don't know, you never played, you don't. And it's like, I definitely did play, but you never played. Person in my mentions. Like, so dude, I've just had to be the bigger person on a lot of that, and I don't respond. I don't block people. Sometimes I'll tweet like my frustrations out, but never directly at the person. I'll tell you the funniest time though, when I really got like my ass handed to me was I was talking about Deshaun Watson. I think we had this talk, and I was like, you know, I don't really know what the hype is. He wouldn't have won the playoff game if Josh Allen didn't play like crap or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I tweeted that out. And I don't know, like, who in the Bills Mafia, like, keeps the alerts for people talking shit about Josh Allen. But, like, dude, they were on me. Like, they just started swarming me and, like, telling me I didn't know what I was talking about and I was an idiot. And Josh Allen, so I'm like, wow. Like,
this is what you spend your time like in your day to do.
Yeah, man. And I'm just
like tweets about your quarterback and attack people.
I'm like, I like the guy. I'm like,
Oh
but
yeah,
he
I
played a
love Josh
bad
Allen, man.
game.
I'm a huge fan. But
Yeah, and I'm like, he just played a bad game. Like, why can't we admit he played a bad game? And they're like, oh, but you know, I mean, you get called all types of names and whatever, and it's just like, man, I'm just trying to have fun out here talking about ball. But dude, the anger is huge. And here's the funny part, right? Is like, how many of these mock drafts are even like 50% right? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, but very few.
yeah. So like, people are like, oh, this mock's so wrong because it doesn't look like this guy's, and it's like that guy's probably wrong. You know what I mean? Like, he doesn't know any
Mhm.
more than I know.
Do
So
you have and you don't have to touch it if you don't want to, like a favorite and or least favorite, like kind of draft personality or however you want to call them?
uh, I'll say who my favorite is.
Yeah.
And I won't touch on least favorite because there's a lot
Okay.
out there that I don't like, and I'll just
Yeah.
say that.
Me
I
too.
really like Jordan Reed, who's at ESPN now, and it's less about his analysis and everything else. He's a guy that he played at North Carolina Central. I think he was a quarterback there, but he came up through like the blogs. He was blogging, doing kind of the Twitter scouting type of stuff, and now he's made his way to ESPN. But what I like about him is I see him doing a lot of what I would call, like, for lack of a better term, things that are beneath him, man. Like, I
Mhm.
don't know if he would come on ours, but I've seen him come on podcasts like ours, or blogs like ours. And it's like, here's this guy at ESPN now just chopping it up. So
Yep.
I really like that, the level of humility he seems to have. The guys I don't like, they just don't know what the hell they're talking about, but they
Yeah.
position themselves like they do. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I think some are great at branding or marketing themselves, but not at the actual content that they produce.
yeah,
So,
I think that's probably the best way to put it. And a lot of times, to your point, like, what I don't like is, I'm not getting your analysis, right? Like, I'm like, if I just use you as an example to stay neutral, like, you giving me Todd McShay's draft, but maybe flipping one or two people, is not Austin's analysis. You know what I mean?
right,
Like, why am
exactly.
I reading that? But like, there are these big accounts that kind of brand it like that. Like, check my latest mock, and it's like, dude, it's somebody else's. You know what I mean? And it's
Yeah,
like,
exact same. And very like vague, like traits or descriptions for a player too. It's like
yeah,
explosive, long, like okay, man. Like,
yeah, dude. So that's a
like
really hard
nothing else
part.
of
Like,
substance.
yeah, like, that's a hard part. Like, I try to, because
I mean, you can only be like so descriptive, but at the same time, it's like you could tell some guys who like just really haven't watched someone and like
oh,
just
don't know.
throwing out
Yeah,
like
they don't know shit, and they're
yeah,
just like, yeah. So I when I first started writing it, the guy that I worked for, Paul Banks, shout out to him, awesome dude, never really criticized me for it, but he was just like, hey, it's gonna take me a while to edit what you wrote because it's really long. You know what I mean? And so, like,
mhm,
it's kind of very subtle, like, hey, cut it back a bit.
yeah.
So, dude, there's times where I really want to talk a lot about a guy and get into some of the stuff, especially the defensive linemen. But
But yeah, because you're gonna be like a subject matter expert and you're gonna want to
yeah,
talk like detailed X's
but,
and O's at that point. But
but then there's this line too where it's like, and I'm not trying to insult anybody, but the fans don't know what the hell I'm talking about. You know what I mean? Like, if I start
mhm,
talking about, this guy's setting up a move or stacking a move or doing that, and then it's like, so now something that's already long has to get even longer if I'm going to stop and explain what it is. It's like, so I'm just like, yeah, he's got great pass rush moves, like, violent hands, like, I'm trying to
mhm,
think, like, what are the phrases? Like, there's some generic ones that they're out there, but, um, yeah, dude, the draft people I like are the people that seem to be doing their own analysis. They're coming up with guys. There's some Twitter scouts I really like. I've shouted them out before. Matt Alcare, Demetrius Jackson, and I'm blanking on the other guy's name, but he's at the Draft Network. And what I really liked about those guys was, like, anytime I would look up a prospect, like, they already had video analyzing this guy, and like,
nice.
so I'm like random guys, like guys that I'm thinking are fifth round guys, and here they are talking. I'm like, holy shit. So I really like that because, to your point, it's so easy to talk about Aiden Hutchinson and Kayvon Thibodeau and Kenny Pickett, and but like, to talk about your quarterback, Cole Johnson.
Cole Johnson.
Yeah. Like when I saw that on the Draft Network, I was just like, wow, this is cool, because you're not seeing people go that far down to talk about things.
I was happy when I saw
it. But these are guys that are probably going to end up on an NFL roster, right? Or at least in a camp. And it's like, to never talk about these guys, it's just like, come on.
And I can look up the stat, but it's like how many guys on rosters are undrafted or like 6th round or after. It's like half the league almost.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's where your bread and butter is in a lot of cases. But those are the guys who hardly any fans know about because they're not talked about like in this process as often, or, by the draft Twitter or media people, to the same extent, obviously, which makes sense. But again, I wish more would dive kind of, again, I think it takes a lot more, I guess, skill within like that industry to really break down someone who's may or may not make a roster versus like everyone knows, like, again, like you said, Hutchinson or Thibodeau, like,
right.
You're just regurgitating the same info that's been said by thousands of people at that point.
Yeah, right. And you see someone say it, and like, I saw a guy, and I'm not going to call him out by name, but if people keep up with it, they'll know. And he made some comment about Hutchinson is a better athlete or a better technician, whatever he said, than the Bosa brothers. And like, and somebody called him out. I forgot what player called him out. Oh, Micah Parsons maybe. But I'm just like, anyone that knows football, and I hate to be this guy, like, the Bosa brothers are some of the most technical, like, amazing defensive linemen I've seen in recent memory. Like, unreal. So then and they've had like crazy good careers. So to say this kid who got just bitched by Georgia, no offense, is better than all of that, I'm just like, we're doing a lot here.
And then like I've gotten into this a little bit on. There's just like so much easily verifiable and available data that you can find on some of these guys, and people just don't do their research before like posting something. So a lot of people were like trashing like George Karlaftis from Purdue, like through the process, saying, "Oh, he's not a good athlete. He just wins with strength." And like, dude, he's like off the charts on his athleticism, like skill, like a state champion, I think, shot in discus in high school, like right up there, like just like elite of the elite. Would have been a high Division I level like track and field guy. Ran the 100-meter in high school. It's like, dude, you can take 30 seconds and find all this stuff out, but it's just like stuff like that kind of irks me too. When you just do like zero background information on the player, and that's just like one instance. And that's something I always try to use is like look up like their high school if they did like track and field or multi-sport athlete. So there's a lot of info out there that can back up an athletic profile.
I'm looking at him now on Mock Draftable, and it's like, here, I'll pull this up, and like, his jumping and like some of his other athletic traits are like 90th percentile for an athlete.
Exactly.
It's like if we come down, like you look at like, okay, vertical jump, 91st percentile, broad jump, 80th percentile, like that's some serious explosion. 20-yard shuttle, 66th percentile, like that's not a bad athlete. You know what I mean? So it's like, that's
and I'm looking on his. I don't know if you're familiar with like the RAS, like relative athletic scores. Yeah. So he's like 90 or 9.81, so about 92nd percentile on there overall. I don't know if that's what you were looking at or.
No, I was looking at Mock Draftable, but I like the RAS too.
Yeah, 96th percentile vertical from there, like 87th broad on their site. It's like,
dude, yeah. Okay, so this is like, I don't want to deep dive it, but sometimes I think that stuff is just like racism. Like, I think people just see like big white pass rusher and they're like, oh, he's not athletic.
Yeah, he's lumbering.
Yeah. And he's in the Big Ten, right? Like, oh, he runs with strength. That's his thing. And it's like, that is what you can say, like probably 9 times out of 10 on a guy who's like in that profile if you really don't watch him, right? Just like, oh, this guy's like a a skinny black pass rusher out of the SEC. Oh yeah, freak athlete, like wins with
Twitchy.
speed. Yeah, doesn't have the technique,
Yeah.
and like you probably got like a 50-50 shot of like being right on that stuff.
Right.
So I hate that because to me, yeah, that's just lazy, and that says to me like you didn't watch it. Like, gosh, I forget. It was like Stephen A. Smith. They called him out on that once. Like, it was some black quarterback, and he was like,
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking. I can't remember who it was, but it was like,
he's like, why isn't this guy running more or whatever, And it's like, he's a pocket passer, man. Like,
oh god.
so
Yeah,
I'm just like, oh, these guys, they're lazy at times, and to be fair, they, for Stephen A. and those, like, they have to cover every sport, so I get it, but when you're covering football specifically, to give those lazy type of takes is just like, I'm not a fan.
Yeah, no, I agree.
But yeah, oh yeah, it just wins with strength. Like that's like a like Cooper Kupp.
It was
right?
Dwayne Haskins actually.
Yeah, it was Haskins. Yeah,
unofficial time of 5.04 seconds.
And Stephen A. was asking why he didn't run more, right?
He said more of a runner than a thrower. Let's see. I just find him to be more of a runner than a thrower. I could be wrong about that, but that's what I find. So then you're like hedging your bet too. Like, I could be wrong about my entire statement.
That's what I mean, man. Like, it's like, like I hate it about like Cooper Kupp too, where like
so sneaky athletic.
Yeah. And it's like this guy literally torched the FCS when he came, like was the best receiver in FCS
like
by a mile.
Like a 4-time All-American or like borderline,
like, oh, sneaky good. It's like, he's been really good for a while. You know what I mean? And then you find out, like, I guess his dad played in the NFL too. It's just like,
no, I did not know that, but
I
mean, I know his 40 wasn't like great, but I think his shuttles were really good. But yeah, maybe he just gets. I mean, you don't have to be. That's the thing about receiver too. It's like you don't have to be an incredible athlete to get open.
Right. I'm just like, if I look at this guy, like most career receiving yards in NCAA, 6,000 receiving yards, and he left after his junior year. Like, he's pretty good. Yeah. So I'm like,
4.62, but he ran a 4.08 shuttle and then 6.75 3-cone. So those are both really good. 31-inch vertical, that's pretty low, but I mean, again, it looks like it hasn't stopped him much.
Yeah, I don't think that's much of his game.
Right.
But I'm like,
short area quickness.
Dude, I'm looking at his stats, almost 1,700 yards and 20 touchdowns as a freshman in college.
That's
like
ridiculous, man.
Yeah, like that's kind
of that's a whole career for like a good player.
And like that's one of the things I look at when people are like, "Oh, this guy played FCS. Could he really play at the next level?" It's like
best ever, or one of the best ever at FCS, or
like, dude, if you're a freshman putting up 20 touchdowns and 1,700 yards FCS, like he probably could have transferred to a big program.
Oh, anywhere he would have wanted to go for sure.
Yeah. But then after that, he goes, and he had almost 100 catches. Every year he had almost 100 catches or more. So freshman year, 93 receptions, 1,700 yards, 20 touchdowns. Sophomore year, 104 catches, 1,400 yards, 16 touchdowns. Junior year, like clearly people know this guy's getting the ball. 115 catches, 1,600 yards, 20 touchdowns. Then his senior year, I was wrong, he came back. 120 catches, 1,700 yards, 20 touchdowns. Like the fact that everybody knows this is the guy getting the ball and he still ends up with basically 20 touchdowns.
Numbers.
like, so when people were like, wow, sneaky athletic, small white guy, like, where did this come from? It's like, dude, he's been better
the whole time, man.
Yeah, like, and not to get on this rabbit hole, but I think it was Christian McCaffrey's dad was like, if my son was black with the 40 he has and what he's doing, like people would be talking about him like he was the greatest of all time. Mm-hmm. But everybody's saying he's like an under the radar prospect. And I'm like, when he said that was the first time where I'm like, that's a good point. You know what I mean?
Was he still like a top 5 pick though? Or
Yeah, he was. So it all worked out. But I'm like, I was just like, yeah. Like if I look up McCaffrey, what was he doing at Stanford?
I mean, even like he broke out like or flashed a lot as a freshman, like especially like later in the season. But yeah, I mean, sophomore is like when he really took off.
He went 8th overall.
Okay.
Was he in the Heisman at all?
I think he was a finalist one of the years. Yeah, finished second as a sophomore. I'm trying to see.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was kind of right at the beginning when guys started to sit out the bowl games. Because I remember that because I wasn't like, I mean, I understand it more so now, I think, now that I'm like in the business side of things, plus just being a little bit older. But yeah, I guess it was his junior year. He went early, but yeah, sat out the bowl game. That was kind of like the first time when guys were starting to do that to not get hurt or prepare for the draft. And now it's like a common theme that you see constantly.
Yeah, people were pissed. Like people were
Yes.
like, "Oh, he's quitting." Like here's what his dad was saying too. His dad said he was taking scouts to task for not taking him serious because he was white. And his dad said, when you read about white athletes and white skill possession receivers, you'll always find one word, and that's tough. You rarely see explosive athletic stuff like that. It makes me upset. I ran the same 40 as this guy, and you're calling him explosive. People do the eye test and underestimated me, so I played with a chip on my shoulder. And then he was saying the same thing about his son. It's like, yeah, it's true. Like, what was it? If you look at Andrew Luck's combine compared to Cam Newton's, they were like almost identical.
Oh yeah, I remember.
Like,
you ever see the video of Luck like at Stanford? He threw a pick and just like decleated a guy.
oh yeah, I did. Yeah, dude. There's definitely some bias. I mean, look, like you said, it all works out. The guy was a top 10 pick, but for sure you always hear that like, oh, sneaky fast, or like one thing I hate is like
high IQ player.
High IQ, yeah. Tough, like his dad said. Every white receiver, people are like, oh, he could be the next Edelman. He could be the next Wes Welker. It's like, what if he doesn't play like that at all? What if he's like a white Randy Moss? You know what I mean? Like, but no one ever gives a guy that. They're like, oh, he's the next Edelman. He's the next Welker. He's going to be the next Cooper Kupp now. You know what I mean?
That's going to be the new thing. Yeah, I mean, Welker and Edelman were the two guys like I loved watching, when I was in high school and going through college. But
yeah, dude. It'll I don't know. One day it'll get there, maybe not. But it is funny, like these guys never get like cross-racial comps. Like it's always
the other funny guy. He hasn't done much in the league, but Troy Apke when he when Deion Sanders commented when he ran like a 4.2 something or 4.3.
Yeah, and they're like, "Why are you surprised by that?" And he's like, "You know why I'm surprised." It's like, "Oh, come on!" Like, it's like there's plenty of white guys out there running 4.4, 4.3. Like, I don't know. Maybe not. I feel like there are, but I don't know. It's funny. There was a really funny thing, kind of in basketball, on this. It's a little bit more nerdy. I read who it was. It was Sam Hinkie or one of these like analytics guys, and he was asking like, "How did we miss on Jeremy Lin?" And when he went back, he's like, "Oh, because he was Chinese, all of our scouts were comparing him to other Chinese guys that have played in the NBA, and none of them made it." He's like, "So I put this rule in, like, if a player is white, black, whatever, like, you need to give me one player that they're similar to that's not the same race." And it's like, because he's like, I forget who the person was for Jeremy Lin, but he's like, if they would have told me Jeremy Lin was like, I don't know, Derrick Rose, which he was, right? But just a name, he's like, we probably would have drafted him. But when they tell me he's, Yi Jin Lan or these guys that were busts, he's like, oh, yeah, I don't know that guy. So it's just like, yeah, like, I don't know, man. Like, but I think it's just easy for us to do, like, You see people see like a big black quarterback with a strong arm, maybe a little like goofy, and people are like, "Is this the next Jamarcus Russell?" And it's
Right.
like,
I mean, everyone's afraid of it, though.
yeah, it's like I don't know. I It is what it is. It's going to be part of the scouting. You know what? I'll say this since we started on the other thing. I'm less angry about people doing that, like lazy comparison, than
Mhm.
I am of people doing like uh, only wins with strength, doesn't have technique. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
because one is just like, okay, you have this bias, you see a guy and you're trying to make him another guy. The other one to me is like, you have not watched George Karlaftis play, you have not looked at his stats. Like,
Mhm.
Stephen A looks like more of a runner than a passer to me, but I
Yeah.
could be
Did he,
wrong.
like, set the Big Ten record for passing yards in TDs? Like, what?
And then runs like a terrible 40.
Yeah.
I could be wrong. That's just what I see. Like,
Cole Johnson ran a faster 40.
just start saying like crazy shit. Like, I don't know, man. Kevin Durant looks more like a passer than a scorer to me, but that's my
Right.
take. I don't know. But all right, let's jump into some of the teams. I know we want to talk about the Cardinals. We were talking about Kyler Murray. I'll pull up their roster, but just right now, let's kind of talk about. Sounds like he wants out. Sounds like he doesn't want to be there anymore.
Yeah, and I think between him and his team, they've gone about this as about as poorly as you possibly can. He made traction this year for sure and had a good season. Got exposed in the playoff game. Obviously, that's one game, out of a large sample, but it's when it really counts. But just the whole letter thing that they put out or he put out about a month or two ago, whenever that was, and demanding over like 50 million a year allegedly.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, he's not. You can't convince me he's a top 10 quarterback in the league right now. Why would he be paid that amount of money? Like, go have a better season this year and prove it. No, I get wanting to have some more job security and locking in a long-term deal. I mean, that it's smart, it makes sense, and because injuries can happen, but um, you're going to have to make concessions if you're wanting to get that deal done now, or you're going to be out of a job there. At least they might want to trade him. I don't know. I think there's a lot of maturity concerns even coming through the pre-draft process. I think that was handled very poorly by him. He was just head and shoulders the best talent, I guess, arguably in that draft. So still went number one. But, I just think that could handle things a lot better with that. But, if you're a GM, are you paying him over 50 million a year?
No, I don't think so. Well, one, he's early, right? Like he's like a couple years early already on this contract because I forget when he was drafted, but he's still on his rookie deal. So it's
Yeah, he's eligible now. He just finished his third season, so he's
okay.
could renegotiate at this point. But
So to have one good season and I don't want to like downplay it, but your best season to date, and then as soon as you have it, say, okay, I want to be paid like a top quarterback. It's tough, right? Because I think the money's out there. Um, I live in Maryland. I think this is a similar conversation that Lamar Jackson's probably having. Like, whatever he's going to get paid, it's going to have to be a lot, just given what the quarterback market is, what Deshaun
yeah,
Watson got, whatever. And I think it's a little bit easier to make the case for Jackson because he won MVP and
yeah,
kind of carries a Ravens team there. But with Kyler, it just feels too soon. The maturity. I'm also still not a fan of him being like 5'6". I think it makes it really tough for him. And I don't know. If I'm a GM, I think honestly, you look at the draft and you say, what am I going to do with this guy, right? Like, do I try to trade him? Do I see if we can get a deal? Do I don't know, go get Baker Mayfield? Like, because
yeah. Well, I mean, he played with the head coach as well. So I mean, that was part of the whole like selling point with bringing in Kyler Murray,
yeah,
so he could be with Kingsbury. But I mean, yeah, he had a good season without a doubt. I mean, 69% completion and 24 TDs to 10 picks. It's solid.
Yeah.
You want to be at a 3-to-1 ratio, but definitely solid still. But yeah, I mean, you're asking for top of the line money when you're not a top of the line player yet. Could he get there? Potentially. But, if I'm a GM now, I'm offering maybe $35 million a year long term if he wants to do it this offseason, or set some benchmarks that he has to hit. And if he hits them, next season, then you give him the 50 plus per season. But I don't think he's earned it at this point.
Yeah, and I'm seeing okay, I get kind of his gripe. It says, this year he's only going to get 965 according to Sport Track Base, but it's just yeah, but you already got all the other money, right? So 4 years, 35 million guaranteed as a rookie. So this year it's the big signing bonus. So he's getting $6 million in a signing bonus, $4.5 million in a roster bonus. So sure, his base is only $1 million, but he's picking up almost $10 million. You know what I mean? So I don't know, man. Next year, right? He's getting, I guess, the fifth option's available, and you'd probably franchise tag him. But
yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, the Cardinals control his destiny. I mean, that's just how the contracts are set up. Not like you said, they have a fourth, this coming season, the fifth-year option if they want to do it, then franchise him twice. It's, does Kyler want to play ball or not?
yeah,
now he'll get to an impasse at some point, but he's also on his rookie deal. They technically can't hold out. I mean, he'll lose his money, and find some of that signing bonus money. So
yeah, lose his signing bonus. He'll lose part of the roster money. It just, unlike other leagues, I think kind of NBA, it works a little bit easier where players are able to say, trade me, right? I want out, and it kind of happens. I mean, we watched Deshaun Watson try it, and it didn't work. We've watched a lot of players, I feel like, try it. It doesn't work. It's a different league. So, all the shit he's pulling with and I hate this, man, that this is the new world of take all the team photos off your Instagram,
Yeah, or I saw, was it AJ Brown that just took Titans out of his bio too?
Yeah,
everyone's causing a storm. It's okay,
yeah,
anything.
Yeah, and to your point, I think the point I'm making is he's gonna have to play ball, and if he doesn't, right, he'll lose his money. And sometimes, man, I was saying this about Deebo, who we can talk about in a minute. Sometimes when you put teams in these spots and other teams know you want out, it makes it so hard to get a deal done that where you end up going is probably the place you don't want to go. You end up in a Cleveland, not to, use that as an example, but you kind of end up in a bad spot.
And then in most cases, these front offices don't want to be the one to set a precedent, in a situation. And you saw how the Browns, every owner is shitting on them and GM because they just gave them a fully guaranteed deal. And why would you now it ruins it for everybody else since you set this precedent now for top quarterback pay. But I mean, in any case with, when it comes to contract and, player situations, no one wants to be the first to do something and kind of break that, the power that they have, because the owners have in the NFL and GMs, you can lump them in too, but they have the most power out of any professional sports league by far, when it comes to the relationship with the players. They'd rather a guy sit out for the whole season like Deshaun Watson than, or whoever, than, given to certain demands.
Yeah. And I think that's a really good point. And one of the things that I was kind of talking about on Twitter, we mentioned Deebo, we mentioned AJ Brown. We can throw Terry McLaurin in the mix, DK Metcalf. I think that might be it for guys that are wide receivers looking for a new deal for a variety of reasons. But I think once Christian Kirk got that $18 million a year,
shout out to his agent, because that was the biggest overpay in NFL history.
Yeah,
I mean,
great deal.
Great $10 to $12 million talent, and the amount he got was just, my mind was blown. But
so it's just so And I saw, a couple NFL insiders were like, "Oh, no wide receivers are going to get signed for a few days now. They're going to try to reset the market. No. Once that precedent has been established, right? Like a smart agent like you or anybody else is going to come with that data point of my guy's better than Christian Kirk. This is what Christian Kirk's getting. This is the starting point, right? Like we're talking 18 million a year, or we're not talking, right? So it's just like, and again, shout out to Christian Kirk. Good for him, but.
Yeah, I mean that's incredible. So
that
blame
deal
the player in the situation at all.
But dude, that deal has blown up the wide receiver market, right? And I don't even think it's about because I saw people saying, "Oh, it's Devontae Adams." I'm not sure it's Devontae Adams getting all the money at the top because it's easy to tell a guy, "Hey, look, you're not Devontae Adams," but it's hard to tell some DK, AJ Brown, these guys, you're not Christian Kirk or better. You know
right.
What I mean? Like,
I mean, he's not a top 10, 15 receiver either.
Yeah.
So he's getting paid like this. So
yeah, he is. He absolutely is. And I think these guys are going to come and ask for money. And I think so. That's the thing with Kyler, right? So it's like if you give in to the demand and you pay him all this money, you kind of create a slippery slope. I think who benefited really well from this, even though the Redskins or Commanders, didn't want to set a precedent with him was Kirk Cousins, right? And so, by franchising him year after year after year and never putting him on the long-term deal, he actually made quite a bit of money. But
then he got like the first like multi-year fully guaranteed. When he went to Minnesota and got himself some leverage. So.
Yeah, I think because he was looking for that. I think because he was just realizing.
Oh yeah, I mean, I don't blame him.
Well, yeah, but I mean, getting the average of the highest paid player every year is never a bad deal. But yeah, there's no commitment. There's no longevity there. So I'll pull up the Cardinals roster, or at least their free agent moves. So let me share.
So big loss. They lost Chandler Jones to the Raiders.
Yeah.
So that's a tough replacement.
So Christian Kirk, we talked about, he's with Jacksonville. Chase Edmonds, he goes to the Dolphins. I guess that's kind of a depth guy. Yeah. Chandler Jones was huge, but he got a big payday to go to the Raiders.
He got a huge payday.
And then Max Garcia, I don't really know. Lineman or lineman. And then these are the guys that they signed. AJ Green, Jonathan Ward, Antoine Wesley, a lot of who on this list. You know what I mean? Will Hernandez, who I think Giants fans are probably happy to see go. Colt McCoy. Shout out to Colt McCoy for still being in the NFL.
He's lasted a long time, man.
Yeah. James Conner, Zach Ertz. So there's some, those two are some decent weapons. Max Williams, kind of like a depth tight end. Jeff Gladney, I think, is a decent corner. And then you got some special teams guys. I mean, look, I think they're still okay, right? I guess it's like you got these guys, but you still have who's the big receiver? I'm blanking on the name. The big receiver, Hopkins.
Yeah.
You still got Hopkins. You've got Zach Ertz now. You've got Kyler Murray. Is there another receiver on that offense I'm forgetting?
They might have a younger guy. I got to check this.
Yeah.
Check the roster myself, man.
I searched Cardinals roster. It's like, do you mean the St. Louis Cardinals?
Oh, Rondale Moore. Yeah, that's who they.
Yeah.
I like Rondale a lot.
Yeah, so do I. Trace Mcsorley is here. That's funny. Shout out to Trace Mcsorley. I didn't know he was still in the.
I didn't know he was in the league still either.
Yeah. But yeah, if I'm looking at their depth chart, you've got.
I mean, they got some talent on defense though too.
Yeah.
I mean, Zaven Collins, Isaiah Simmons. He's got some potential still. Buda Baker,
Byron Murphy's good.
Yeah.
You got JJ Watt. I think he's still got a little left in the tank.
Mm-hmm.
I like Zach Allen actually a lot, the the
Yeah.
Boston College guy. So look, I think that team's good.
Are they better than last year though? Or I mean, can they win a playoff game in your opinion? Have they done enough, up to this point?
No,
I don't know if
I
they're
don't
in a
think
better situation. I mean, I think it depends. The big question is, one, does Kyler stay? Two, does he elevate his game to that next level? And get it, because I think if he plays to that next rung up, I do think they can win a playoff game or two maybe. But I think a lot of it hinges on that though.
Yeah, I'm trying to pull up his playoff record. So
I think that was
Kyler's
his only
is only one.
appearance.
So, and he just kind of stunk it up. And then I'm reading he pulled himself out of the game.
Yeah, it's not a good look.
Yeah, you never want to do that. Let's see here. Here are the stats for Kyler if I share that. So I mean, again, right? 19 of 34, 2 interceptions, 2 sacks. Average air yards, I guess, like 1.4. So yards per attempt, 4 yards. I mean, he really wasn't pushing the ball down the field. Just which that offense is all about, kind of pushing the ball down the field. So
right.
I didn't know what to make of it. I mean, I thought they played good defense against him, but at the same time, it's just like if you watched it, he looked rattled. He didn't look good.
Yeah, I mean, he just wasn't. The stage was too big at that point of his career, I think, and didn't feel comfortable or didn't look comfortable.
Yeah, which is also part of me being like maybe a little old school, that I'm like, man, after you stunk it up like that, now's the time to come ask for more money. Like, I don't know.
After the worst game of your career, or one of them.
Yeah. Like I don't know. And
The worst thing is just like the manner they've gone about it. I think it's one thing to ask, but two, to again just be immature about it. And I mean, that's the stuff that kind of alienates your fan base, and you don't want your franchise quarterback to be doing that. So
yeah, dude, and not harp on it, but let me see if I can pull that letter up, from his agent.
Well, it looked like it was like written on like the Declaration of Independence too. You could like barely pick up what was on it. It was like so small.
God, yeah, let me pull it up. To your point, I'll have to zoom in. But there were some parts in it where I was just reading it and I was like, well, dude, no shit. Like, you're the quarterback of the team. Like, these are all things that you should be doing. Like, okay, here, let me zoom in. And I'll pull it up on the screen. Oh, I can't. Okay, here we go. Yeah, this thing is ridiculous. And it's like got his little like logo on it. I mean, this is his agent, and I'm sure he's got a big time agent, but it just kind of fell flat to me. I was just like, what is this?
Yeah.
So pull that out. So it's like, oh, hey, he's got 2 important goals. He wants to be the long-term QB. He wants to win the Super Bowl. It's like, yeah, no shit. Like, who doesn't want to win the Super? Like, okay, like I would expect him to want to win and whatever. And then he's like, in this part, it's like, oh, the team in Kyler's track record is better. He took a 3-win team into this and that, and it's like, well, yeah, that's why they drafted you, right?
Like, I hate the actions speak much louder than words in this volatile business in bold. It's like, what are you thinking, man? Like, how it's stupid. I mean, no other way to put it.
It is now up to the Cardinals to decide if they prioritize their rapidly improving 24-year-old, already 2-time Pro Bowl QB, who led the organization from 3 wins before his arrival to 11 wins in their first playoff appearance in 5 years. Or rather, if they choose to financially prioritize committing to other areas and continuing to merely talk about addressing Kyler's long-term future as their QB. So it comes back to the point, right, where it's like, first of all, it's a team. and your contract's not up for another possible 2 years.
Right.
So
it's like, do you want help to win playoff games, or I mean, dude, there's only so much money to go around too, man.
Yeah, I just looking back at this again now, I'm just like, it just reads like so selfish, you know what I mean? And just I don't know, I was just like, wow, you know. Kyler was tasked with stepping into a tough situation and named the starter on day one of his arrival.
It's like that's what you should expect if you're drafted first overall.
I'm like, dude, you were a Heisman Trophy quarterback, you're first overall. Like, they weren't bringing you in to keep winning 3 games a year.
Right.
Like, dude, they brought you in to replace a guy that they only allowed to start for a year. Like, what do you?
Yeah, that whole thing was weird too. I mean, I guess it hasn't worked out for Rosen, but it's like, if you're going to draft a guy in the first round, you give him more than a year, man.
Yeah. And then here, to your point, it's kind of like, it feels like the agent is really trying to burn the bridge with the team, where it goes like, unfortunately, every player, coach, and executive in the NFL knows, or should know, that words and hypothetical contractual promises are regularly dismissed and fleeting in this business. Like, basically just telling the team, like, we think you're full of shit. Like,
yeah. Like, that's going to go over well.
Yeah, I'm just like, oh, okay. So, yeah, I keep coming back to, like, I think he wants out, which is very odd because they've done everything to, in my opinion, on the outside looking in, right? I don't know behind the scenes, but they go and get Cliff, which felt like the step to get him. They go and get Hopkins. They go and get J.J. Watt. They start to put guys around him. Because, okay, let me do this. 2019 Arizona Cardinals depth chart. And we'll look at who he came in with. Or maybe who was there the year before him is probably better. Let's see. Yeah, let's look at the 2018. Because he talks about, like, oh, do you guys care about everybody else or me? It's like, I think they made that team better, man. Like, okay, so I'll pull this up for the people watching video. So this is the 2018 roster. You know, Sam Bradford, Josh Rosen, Mike Glennon are the quarterbacks. David Johnson, Chase Edmonds, TJ Logan at running back. I don't know, fullback.
Fitzgerald kind of his last legs. And Christian Kirk.
Chad Williams, Trent Sherfield, JJ Nelson, Ricky Seals-Jones, you know, some linemen that, again, are old. And then on defense, you've got Chandler Jones, Corey Peters, I guess. Deion Buchanan was good. Like, some of these guys aren't even in the NFL anymore, or they're like backups on other teams.
Buda Baker, Antoine Bethea was old at that point.
Yeah. So it's like, I
think the roster is better, obviously, than it was then.
Yeah. So to say like, hey, are you guys committed to paying me, or are you trying to fix the roster? It's like, buddy, the roster was crap. Like, I don't know. Like, you're not winning 11 games with those guys, right? Like,
right.
So I don't know, man. He's kind of a diva. I know we're getting close to the hour here, so we wanted to talk about Seahawks, but I wanna show you this. Let me pull it up. You can probably hear it. I'm gonna replay it. This was the Deebo thing I was telling you, where I'm like, I think he's out of there too. So Nightclub. They've got Deebo here. They're playing. It says, you know, Deebo is staying 49ers. So he's like, they're saying, "Hey, we love you. You're staying." He does a little throat slash. Like, I'm not.
I'm out of here, man.
Yeah.
I'm not paying these taxes anymore.
Again, he doesn't have much leverage, but he is a free agent at the end of this year. So, whether he gets traded or not, I wouldn't expect him to be back in San Francisco anytime soon.
Right.
But, this is always kind of the drama, I feel like, of the NFL. Feels like more guys than ever this year, especially I think at the wide receiver position with Christian Kirk. That deal really, really blew things up. But every year this happens, right? From probably as long as you can remember, guys are going to hold out. Oh, he hasn't been to training camp. He's not showing up. But at a certain point, they show up because
they want
lose
money.
a lot of money.
At the end of the day. Yeah.
I think so. I don't know. Seahawks we can talk about, quickly. I really don't have much. I think DK I think they're trying to shop him, but I don't know if they can find anybody.
Do you draft a quarterback in this cycle? Do you let it ride for a year and try to get someone better since it's a much stronger class next year for quarterback?
Yeah, because who'd they bring in? Drew Lock?
Drew Lock, yeah.
Yeah, I think you give Drew Lock a chance and see what he's got because none of the –
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Or any of the guys in this draft that they can get, unless they trade up, which I think would be a mistake. Like, are they going to get someone better than Drew Lock? Probably not.
I don't think so.
Probably not much better. Again, I think next year's quarterback class is going to be historically strong. Get some more draft capital for next year, if anything else.
I would agree. I think you got to see what you've got in Drew Lock. He's still a young guy.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at they don't have as cool of a free agent tracker in Seattle, but they kept Quandre Diggs, Al Woods, Sidney Jones, Will Dissly, Kyle Fuller, Rashad Penny. Okay. I don't think anything there really excites you. Guys they lost. DJ Reed, Jamarco Jones, Gerald Everett. And that's kind of it. So, and then we talked about in the trade, they picked up Drew Lock. It just doesn't really seem like they've done much in free agency.
Yeah, Noah Fant, I think, came as well with that trade.
So it's not bad. So, you got Noah Fant, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett.
Yeah. I like Lockett. I like Metcalf. Just a lot of their core players kind of aged and moved on too, and haven't really kept up with the times quite as much. So they brought in.
I think this is what happens, right? It's like they had a strong playoff team. They kept a lot of guys, and then they aged out. But this isn't. I don't know who Freddie Swain is, but
I think he played at Florida.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken. Not saying
Freddie
much.
Swain. Yeah, good call. Florida. 2020 6th-round pick. Not bad. 300 yards, 4 touchdowns last year.
They took D. Eskridge he's second round last year. Receiver, but got hurt a little bit. D. Eskridge, he's kind of similar to Tyler Lockett. I think he's got some potential though.
Oh, okay. The defense, they lost Wagner. I guess that wasn't on their site, but they lost Wagner. Again, I think he's like the last remnants of the Legion of Boom. So none of these guys were there. Their defense isn't that exciting,
Right.
I think they let Carlos Dunlap walk, especially when I look at their defensive ends up here. They've got nobody. Paris.
Yeah, and same with LJ Collier too.
Yeah. So let's see if I look at like a mock for them. Where are they picking? Seattle. Do they not have a first-round pick? Oh, here Derek Stingley. They're 9th. This draft is center.
A lot, man.
Stingley. Yeah, I like Stingley too. So this is saying Stingley at 9, Matt Corral at 40. Oh, and then Boye Mafe at 41.
Yeah, I like Mafe too.
Yeah, I don't dislike that. And then
I don't dislike Corral in the second round either, though.
yeah, and then third round Channing Tindall out of Georgia. I mean, look, I think if they get those three guys, it's decent, But especially looking at the depth chart, you put Corral behind Drew Lock, Geno Smith, Jacob Eason probably leaves, or Geno leaves. Jacob Eason's a guy that I really thought was going to be good, and just kind of
big arm, but not much else, and never quite put it together.
Yeah, but yeah, okay. So you put Corral behind Lock, see what Lock's got.
Probably Stingley will be one of your probably start over Artie Burns.
Shout out to the U.
Yeah. Good guy.
Artie Burns, and then who's the other? Channing Tindall. Maybe takes Cody Barton's spot. I don't know Cody Barton too well.
Mafe would step in probably one of those DN spots too.
Utah 2019 draft. Yeah, Mafe then, right, takes one of the DN spots. If he's not a starter, then probably
rotation
guy. Yeah. So, I think that's good for Seattle. I think those are good moves, but 7 wins last year.
Yeah. I mean, it's tough. You losing a Hall of Fame quarterback. How do you replace him? That's going to be. I could see them missing out this year. I think they have talent on the roster, but I think quarterback's too big of a question. I don't see. I see them 6 or 7 wins maybe. I'd be surprised if. Yeah, maybe Drew Lock needed a change of scenery, and he has some potential. But again, I think I'm not willing to make that bet that he gets him above 500.
Yeah, me either. What's funny about Drew Lock is kind of like, again, kind of like the social media craze. It was like, he was like rapping that song on the bench, and then everyone's like, "Oh, he's gonna be great." Like,
it's like, okay, this is the parameter we need to shows if he's good or not. So.
Yeah, and then he just I don't know, he doesn't stink, but he's not a guy that's gonna win it for you.
I think he's a solid number 2 guy. Again, maybe he develops more and late bloomer, but I'm not counting on it either.
Yeah. No, it gets into something we can talk about maybe on a different podcast. We talk college football. I was talking to a buddy of mine about, I think there's teams that are either, and I don't know this exact wording, but talent developers or talent maximizers. And I think of TCU, Iowa, Wisconsin, they're max or developers. They go and get these 2 and 3 star guys, build them up. Bama, Georgia, Clemson, they're maximizers. They go and get these 4 and 5 star guys, and then just teach them technique, or you know what I mean?
They have the freak athletes that just need to be coached up a little bit.
Yeah, you know what I mean? There's never a guy coming really from those schools that it's he had one offer coming out. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
It's versus you see that a lot more.
Offer you could.
Yeah, you see it a lot more Wisconsin, where it's
well, they have walk-ons that become starters and NFL players, and I mean JJ Watt is one of them.
Yeah, great example of that. Yeah, so I think that about Drew Lock. Is he, to your point, is he a late bloomer? But then I also ask him, is Seattle a quarterback developing spot, or do they need a guy that can play right away?
Yeah, I mean, that's tough. So, one, I would say, when's the last time Denver's had a quarterback that was good? I mean, Peyton, but he was already what he was when he came in there. Before him, Jake Plummer.
Yeah.
Early 2000s. So,
yeah.
So, I mean, I think that's been a tough spot for quarterbacks to succeed in. I mean, I think Wilson was very good and efficient coming out of college, but did anyone think he was going to be a top 10 quarterback of all time, or 15 maybe? I don't know where you'd slot him in at, but a Hall of Fame quarterback. He was a 3rd rounder, if I'm not mistaken.
I mean, he did the grad transfer, right, to try to get him on NFL radars.
NC State to Wisconsin, so Yeah, I mean, maybe gives you a little bit of hope if you're a Seattle fan that,
Yeah.
we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. And that's, we'll wrap it here, but I think that's kind of how I feel about the Bears too. Like, love Justin Fields, yada, yada, but I don't know that the staff there develops a quarterback. You got a lot of the old Green Bay guys, but like, it's not the guys that were there when Rodgers started. It's the guys that were there later in his career. So I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, these guys coached Rodgers, but how much were they really teaching him versus,
Yeah.
So,
just not crashing the Ferrari, basically.
Yeah, right. Right. So it's just like, so to wrap, I think Seattle probably still 6-7 win team. Arizona probably a 10-win team or more, but probably won't win in the playoffs, at least not like past 1 or 2 games. I don't think they make it to a championship game or anything.
Yeah,
like that.
not yet. They'll be competitive, I think. And again, it all kind of hinges on, Murray being there and then developing. But I don't know if they have enough to quite get over that hump and kind of get into the, past the wild card round.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. So, all right, we'll wrap it. And then next week we'll talk about, I don't know, just
some draft recap.
Yeah, that'll be good. Yeah, let's just do mostly draft recap, and then we can do teams the episode after that.
Yep.
And for all you scouts out there, start calling white guys explosive, man. Like, what are you doing? Enough's enough.
I love it.
All right. You got anything coming up this week?
NFL draft, man. Just getting ready for that. Nothing else though. Going back to Indy for that. Just get the home base there, but otherwise, just counting down the days and hoping it goes by fast. Just ready for it to get here. You have anything going on?
No, got to get a mock out there by Wednesday. So
yeah, just be ready to be attacked for how wrong you are.
Just to piss people off. How are you feeling about any of your guys? You getting any feelers they might actually get drafted or?
Yeah, so I got 3 guys I'm representing in this class. One's a punter, Julian Diaz out of Nevada, so he won't get drafted, but the Rams are working him out tomorrow in a private workout, and so it is a deep punting class. But he's been getting some pretty good calls and looks recently, so he'll have a shot in free agency. J.J. Russell, linebacker from Memphis, was 4th in the country in solo tackles. Couple teams have him, I've heard, as high as 5th round, but a little polarizing as well. Doesn't fit some schemes. So I think, he's going to come down to the wire if he's picked up late or goes into free agency. But enough teams like him that, he'll have a contract by Saturday night. Then Cole Johnson, quarterback of James Madison. So best TD to INT ratio in the draft, FCS Performer of the Year award winner. So yeah, it's kind of same thing as Russell. Some teams said they have a draft grade on him. Others, want to try to scoop him in free agency. I could see someone not wanting to get into a bidding war and just picking him up late. So see what happens. But I think he's a good developmental quarterback and smart kid to have, learning under someone older.
Very cool. Yeah, we'll keep a lookout. See those guys. Hopefully, see all 3 of them. I guess the punter probably won't, but at least 2 of them get drafted and all 3 of them on NFL roster. So that'll be cool.
We'll see what happens. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, man. All right, well, I'll catch up with you next week. Try not to go crazy in between now and Saturday.
Yeah, sounds good, man. Appreciate it. Appreciate everyone listening.
All right.